It was just past midnight when Ethan heard the soft knock on his door, a sound so timid, it almost felt like the wind had changed its mind and tapped instead. He had just returned from his night shift, the city's silence barely muffling the weariness in his bones. But that knock, it wasn't the wind. When he opened the door, the hallway light revealed a girl, barely in her 20s, with red-rimmed eyes and trembling lips. Her hoodie was soaked from the light rain outside, her shoes half-worn, her backpack clutched tightly like it was the only thing she owned. "I'm sorry to bother you," she whispered, voice cracked and dry. "I have nowhere to sleep." For a moment, Ethan stood frozen. He lived in a small, worn-out apartment building on the rougher side of the city. People here kept to themselves. No one knocked at anyone's door unless it was trouble or tragedy. But this girl, she looked like both. He didn't ask questions. "Not yet." "Come inside," he said gently, stepping aside. The inside of Ethan's apartment was nothing special, a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a couch that had seen better years. But it was warm, and it smelled faintly of cinnamon and coffee. She hesitated, just for a second, before walking in like someone who hadn't known kindness in a long time. He handed her a towel, a cup of tea, and sat quietly across the room while she dried her face. "My name's Ethan," he said eventually. "You okay?" She looked at him, eyes glassy. "I'm Zoe." That was all she said that night. But that was enough. Ethan gave her his bed and grabbed a spare blanket to sleep on the floor. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds and lit up the dust dancing in the air. Zoe was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, her hands clenched together. "I'll leave now. Thank you, for not asking questions." But Ethan did have questions, so many, but he saw the fear in her eyes and chose compassion over curiosity. "You don't have to go. Not until you're ready." Her lip quivered, and for a second, she looked like a child lost in a world far too cruel. "I lost my job 2 months ago," she began, as if the truth had been aching to escape. "Then my roommate moved out. I couldn't keep up. I sold most of what I owned. I've been sleeping on buses and in train stations. Yesterday, a man followed me. I ran. I didn't know where to go." Ethan swallowed the lump rising in his throat. "I'm glad you knocked." Over the next few weeks, Zoe stayed. She helped around the apartment, found small cleaning jobs nearby, and started to smile again, shy, flickering smiles like candles in a storm. Ethan never pried, but every now and then, she shared fragments of her life. Her mother died when she was 16. Her father left before she could walk. She had no siblings. No family. No one. One night, she cooked dinner, something simple, pasta with tomato sauce, and as they sat at the table, laughing at a joke Ethan made, she paused mid-bite and said, "This feels like home." Those 5 words broke something open inside Ethan. But not everything was easy. Zoe battled anxiety every time she left the apartment. Loud noises made her flinch. She still had nightmares that made her scream in her sleep. And Ethan, though kind and patient, struggled with his own demons. A past relationship that ended in betrayal, the constant financial strain of his low-paying job, the pressure of being someone else's anchor while feeling unsteady himself. One morning, Ethan returned home to find Zoe gone. No note. No bag. Just silence. Panic clenched his heart. He searched for hours, retracing her usual walking paths, asking store clerks and bus drivers. He found her sitting on a bench by the river, knees pulled to her chest, tears streaming silently down her face. "I don't deserve this," she said when she saw him. "You're too good. I'm just a burden." He knelt in front of her, wiping her tears with his sleeve. "Zoe, don't ever say that again. You're not a burden. You're human. You deserve love, safety, peace. You deserve to be okay." She collapsed into his arms, sobbing like a storm that had finally let go. Months passed. Slowly, things changed. Zoe got a steady job at a bookstore. Ethan, with her encouragement, applied for a better position at the hospital and got promoted. They painted the apartment walls together, replaced the broken coffee table with a thrifted one, and started a little herb garden on the windowsill. One evening, as they sipped tea by the window, Zoe looked at him and whispered, "You saved my life." He smiled. "No, you saved your own life. I just opened a door." In the end, it wasn't just a story about a girl who had nowhere to sleep. It was a story about what happens when someone chooses compassion over convenience, kindness over suspicion, hope over silence. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture, a bed offered, a floor taken, can be the first step toward healing a soul that forgot it was worthy. And in a world that often turns its back on the broken, this story reminds us, one act of love can change everything.